It's a Victory Monday here on the Audible. We're getting used to those, which is a good thing if you're a Miami Dolphins fan. This is the Audible. If you're watching us on Periscope, you can send your questions in throughout the day on Twitter. Just hashtag the Audible. You can see us on a rebroadcast starting tomorrow on the Miami Dolphins Facebook page, and you can see us on MiamiDolphins.com. Joining from the Miami Herald, Adam Beasley. And Adam, a newcomer here to the show.
Yeah.
It's great to have you on.
That's great to be on. Thanks so much.
We had Armando, so it's an all Miami Herald thing. We had Armando last week, and we have you here today.
It's get Barry Jackson in here, complete the trifecta, right?
Yeah, there we go. We'll see. I mean, we're rolling through a lot of guys here. Big win for the Dolphins yesterday, 31-24. And I guess the thing that you you're concerned a little bit about 11 minutes to go in the game, you got a 17-point lead. San Francisco 49ers they score the next 10 points, score the last 10 points of the football game, and it takes a monumental tackle on about the 2-yard line to save the game. But hey, once again, the Dolphins found a way to win the game. Facing some difficulties going in, but got the job done in 6 in a row.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this to Mike Tannenbaum after the game. Cardiologists around South Florida, thank you for the business, because it is never easy with this team, right? No matter what it is, no matter what the score. Yep. It's going to come down to the last drive, and it did again on Sunday. They've been making these plays in these last drives that they didn't make at the beginning of the season, obviously, but certainly in years past too. It's a different team. They're playing winning football when it matters the most, and it matters the most now, right? December, it's time to get it done.
I mean, this is the time, December. And look, if you're a football fan around South Florida, you've been waiting years and years, some of you decades, to see a football team that's in it in December. Well, they're in it in December, but they've got a run right now that they're going to have to deal with. Baltimore's always been a tough matchup for this football team as long as I can remember. Then you've got Arizona at home, and Arizona's a struggling football team, but they got a lot of very good, very talented players on that football team. You go up to New York to play the Jets. Then you got Buffalo, both of those on the road, and you come back for that final game on New Year's Day against the New England Patriots, which I hope is a very meaningful game. When you come in, at that point of the year, I think that would be fantastic for this fan base.
The Dolphins want it to be meaningful for the Dolphins, but I don't think they want the Dolphins to have it meaningful for the Patriots. They want Tom Brady sitting on that bench, and already have that number one.
But you know what, though, Adam? If you want to be one of the best teams, you got to be willing to step out there on a game that means something in the end of the season. I don't care if they're playing for a playoff berth and you're playing for a playoff berth, and come up with the win. That gets you from the other guys to those guys.
Oh, it would be huge for the confidence. There's no question about that. I'm just saying, as a person who covers this market, this fan base is just thirsty for a playoff berth, and they'll take 10 wins however they can get it at this point. And I think if they win Sunday, they'll get to those 10 wins. They'll make the playoffs, but I think this Sunday is their season. You mentioned the history against the Ravens. They always seem to play the Dolphins tough, and I don't remember too many wins against that ball club, particularly in years the Ravens are good. So if you're going to be excited about being a Dolphins fan, this is the week. This is the week to get on board.
You know what's funny? I just keep thinking back to how despondent most of the fans were, including myself, at 1-4.
Rightfully
at
so.
1-4, just scratching your head. I'm like, man, what's up? And then here you go on a streak like this to get to 7-4, 3 games over 500. Almost unbelievable what they've been able to do. But can you put your finger on your opinion of how this team got to where they are right now?
Well, I think it started with their offensive line. I think when they were able to run the football against the Steelers, against the Bills, got Jay Ajayi going, they figured out who they were, and it gave them confidence. I don't know if this team really knew how to close out these games, how to play at a high level. They hadn't done a lot of that the last 4 years. And so I think that was really the turning point. And now, they talk about the formula. Well, the formula's out the window, right? Because those 3 offensive linemen have missed the last 2 games. They're winning now because of Ryan Tannehill and some big plays on defense. So I think it really is, they obviously they're getting some breaks. The breaks that went against them for the past 7 years are now going their way. But I do think that the confidence and the belief in themselves, and certainly their head coach, began with that offensive line getting healthy, with Jay Ajayi running over the Steelers and Bills, and it's just kind of snowballed since then.
Yeah, no question about it. King Edlin here sends in a question. The Ryan Tannehill, Devontae Parker chemistry continues to grow. Now, Devontae Parker went down with the hip injury, the back injury yesterday when he came down on that one pass. Two had the touchdown and that one, both overturned by challenges. But boy, he's playing well, and certainly Ryan. You can tell Ryan now has a confidence throwing the ball up in the air to him and just saying, hey, I'm going to put it up there. It's a jump ball, and I believe that Devontae is going to go up and make the play. And more times than not, he has.
Devontae's luck couldn't have been any worse yesterday, right? Exactly. He had that touchdown taken off the board. It was a beautiful catch, an amazing throw. Just got the hand down, and then that jump ball that Ryan threw to him down the left sideline should have been about a 32-yard gain. That was the play in which he got hurt. He just got his hand down right out of bounds before he got the second foot down. But no, you're right. Assuming he's healthy, and from everything we hear, this isn't something major. I expect him to play on Sunday. From all we hear, all we've seen so far is he's turned that corner. He got healthy. He had those little nagging injuries, the hamstring, certainly the foot from going back to college. Once he got past those, figured out how to play through that pain, he's turned it on. I mean, I think the last 3 games, he's averaging 15, 16 yards a catch. He's just absolutely become their downfield threat.
Well, one of the things he's got to do is he's got to play. He's going to be in pain this week. That thing's going to be bruised. It's going to hurt. It's probably going to be black and blue. He's got to figure out a way to fight through it and play this week. To me, I'd be a little disappointed if he's not able to fight through it. If it's the type of injury that we think it is, unless it's something broken or something. Something sprained or strained or whatever. But this should be an injury, and I think it'll show a little bit of his toughness if he can play through that. Hey, if you want to keep track of Adam on Twitter at Adam H Beasley, you can go ahead and follow him there and catch up with everything that he's talking about. Another Twitter question, Adam. Anyone think that we can run the table? I certainly don't. You would be asking this football team to win 11 straight games, and I don't care who it is, winning 11 straight games is a very, very difficult thing to do. There's no way this team's going to win every game for the rest of the season. But, there are certain games they can lose and certain games they can't lose, and I'm with you. This is a game coming up in Baltimore that they can't lose this football game. This is very, very, very important to them.
For so many reasons, not the least of which tiebreakers. Yes. If they get into a tiebreaker situation, they already have one against the Steelers. They beat them head-to-head, but they lost to the Titans. They can't have too many tie-breaking losses. So they have to beat the Ravens for that. But I think more than anything, this team going on the road and winning in a hostile environment in December against a quality team. The Ravens might not be great on offense, but if they're not the number one defense in the league, they're pretty close. They need to have that experience to go up there and say, you know what? Our best is better than your best. Let's get it on. We're going to beat you toe-to-toe, and we're going to get to 8-4 than they'd be. And if they get to 8-4, they're making the playoffs. Yeah.
It doesn't matter where they play at. They've got to get the job done. And here from this kind of follows up with that at Saguan Brackett. Why does the national?
For you to say.
Yeah, look. I butcher these names all the time, and I try to apologize, but what the heck? Why does the national media give us no respect? Well, I think if they win this game over Baltimore, the national media has to give this team much more respect. But I was watching some of the shows this morning when I had some time, and you're starting to see in the national media, at least from a television standpoint, a little bit more conversation about this football team. They're kind of buying into them a little bit. They're, and the Dolphins are in the, when they would put the projections for playoffs, they've got a spot up there, so they become a part of the conversation. And look, I don't have anything against the national media waiting until they believe in this football team, because the Dolphin fans and everybody, have had the rug pulled out of them plenty of times down here in South Florida. So it's a little bit of the boy crying wolf, if you will.
No, I agree completely. And I think that's part of the reason that there's still some skeptics even in South Florida, not just among the media, but among the fan base. Is this for real? Is this something we can believe in? Because you're right. I think 2013 was the perfect example. They got to, 8-6, 2 home games left against the Jets and the Bills. You win one of those 2 games into the playoffs. They lay an egg in both of them. That has a lingering effect on a fan base. They've been scarred so many times. They've had these meaningful December games that really weren't meaningful in the end because they couldn't win them. This team desperately needs to reward their fan base. I mean, there are some true blue fans that have been by this team. They haven't won a playoff game, since 2001, 2002. Any other team in this market, they would have no fans. I mean, seriously, you look at what the Panthers were 2 years ago and things like that. There's something about the Dolphins that, obviously the perfect season, the Marino era, Shula, all that has built up enough goodwill. But nonetheless, they need to reward these guys. There has to be some sort of payoff for the time, money, resources that the people of South Florida have put into this franchise.
Well, the Dolphins are really the only generational team in sports where you've got a grandfather, a father, and a son, and his son who could go to the game together, and all having grown up here. Hey, you're watching the Audible here on Periscope. You can go ahead and send your questions in via Twitter. Just hashtag the Audible. You can see us on a rebroadcast on the Miami Dolphins Facebook page tomorrow, and you can see us on the MiamiDolphins.com. Let me ask you something about being a guy that covers the beat for the Miami Dolphins or any team. You've been doing this for a long time, and speaking of fans, have you been surprised when we go on the road? The number of fans that show up at Dolphin fans that show up at the ball games,
and not just in cities you would expect, like New York, transplant cities. We're talking about San Diego, Los Angeles. San Diego, the entire home bench side of the stadium was an aqua and orange. It was awesome. So, yeah, I think this still...
Washington, D.C. last year was another one.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you go to London, you still you obviously see a throng of fans there, too. I think, as I mentioned before, the institutional success that this franchise has had has really worked to their advantage. I mean, you have... People think of the Dolphins, they think of Monday Night Football, they think of Dan Marino throwing it up and down the field. They haven't had that in a while, so now it's kind of... Your parents are remembering that. They need to get that younger generation to have those same sort of experiences. But you're right. I mean, you go on the road, and I would say that they have, aside from teams like the Steelers and the Patriots that are kind of unreal expectations because those are, and the Cowboys, those are national teams. But for a team that hasn't had a whole lot of success in the last 10, 15 years, I take my hat off to Dolphins fans. They really travel well.
As a guy that covers this team, and you've got to be neutral, you're just you're telling the facts, what you see, what you. Do you get excited when they win a football game, like a game like yesterday or something like that? Is there since you've been around so much and you know these guys and you talk to coaches and you can't talk to those guys without formulating an opinion on this guy's a good guy, this guy may not be a good guy, I kind of like this guy, kind of don't like that guy. How do you keep that from permeating your job situation?
Well, we're all human beings and we have relationships. We know people in the organization. This is my 5th year on the beat. What I root for is a good story. And I root for something that's compelling and that's interesting. The worst thing you can be in anything in life, particularly professional sports, is irrelevant. And this team has been irrelevant for a while. I mean, that's the thing, is that this is so exciting right now. This run that they're on is because it's so unique. First 6-game winning streak since 2005. They hadn't had a 5-game winning streak since 2008. It is good to buy into it because people are interested. People are talking about it. So, yes, I root for the Dolphins to be interesting, and they're certainly interesting right now.
At DuckDog1104, Bo, can Ryan change his snap count? The guy went 20 of 30 yesterday, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, 130.6 quarterback rating. He's threw his 100th career touchdown pass.
I feel a rant coming on.
And we're going to talk about his snap count. Come on, Duck Dog. You got to bring it a little stronger than that, my man. That's weak. But, hey, what can I say? All right, Twitter, playmakers all over defense. Kiko, Branch, Wake, Sue, Maxwell, and Rambo.
How about Bakari Rambo?
What about Bakari Rambo, the job he's done? Tony Lippett. What about Tony Lippett, the job he's done since moving over from wide receiver? And, look, you look at a lot of, Maxwell in particular. Rambo's only been here for a few weeks. He's making plays. Tony Lippett. These are guys that, man, you thought when they were stepping in that position, going, oh, man, it's going to be a long season for those guys. Somehow, some way. And also in the linebacking core, Donald Butler comes in playing well for him. You had Neville Hewitt play well. You've had Spencer Paysinger. You've had Mike Hull come in and play well. And we talked about a little bit before the show. You look at the defense, and beyond the defensive line, there's a lot of camouflaging going on in there where you got guys that you're sitting there going, man, I'm not sure if the guy can get it done. But somehow, some way, by the group and rotations and everything they're doing, they're getting the job done, certainly to the point where they've won 6 straight games and they're sitting here with 7 wins in the season.
Yeah, they're kind of like a hockey team, right? They have these line changes. The 4 guys will come off, 4 guys will come on. And I will say this, Vance Joseph will be a head coach someday in this league. It may not be 2017, but when it's his time, the first page of his resume should be the job he did with his secondary, because you lose Xavier Howard for the vast majority of the season. You lose Rashad Jones when he get hurt week 3, week 4, something like that. The fact that they're in it, and yes, I know they gave up 475 yards yesterday, and the defense has to play better than it did, but they're making the plays they need to at the right time. If it's a pick 6 from Kiko Alonso, it's Ndamukong Suh running down Colin Kaepernick from behind. They're getting those plays they need to, and you're right. It does feel like maybe it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, but at this point, you have to think there's something real to it.
Smoke and mirrors for 2 games is one thing, but when you do it for 6 games, that's a whole different thing. 38 Double D Lover, who, by the way, is one of my favorite people to call in with or send in the questions. Bo, in your opinion, how close is Tannehill to being an upper-tier quarterback? I think he's certainly making that move. I think he's climbing up the ranks. Now, look, I was listening to the radio and they were talking about, Aaron Rodgers, and they're talking about Tom Brady. And look, he's never going to be Aaron Rodgers. He's never going to be Tom Brady. But he can be a very good quarterback in this league. Can he be in the top 10? I think, he continues to play the way he's played in these last 6 games. I think he could squeeze into the top 10. I don't think he's going to be top 5. I don't think he'll be that guy. But look, if he plays this way and wins football games for you and wins them in the fourth quarter, as we've seen him be able to do, then I think you should be happy with the guy.
What more do you want from a quarterback?
I don't know.
Then he led them from behind against Los Angeles. He carried the team yesterday. Let's not kid ourselves. He was probably, 80-85% of their total offense. They had no running game. San Francisco completely sold out to stop the run. And he goes, as you mentioned, 20 of 30, passer rating of 130. He now has the highest passer rating of his career in a single season, and that's saying something because the first 3-4 weeks of the season they weren't getting a whole lot of production from that position. They were winning early because they were going through Jay Ajayi. Now they're winning because they're going through Ryan Tannehill, and I don't think there's any question that the way he's played the last 5, 6, 7 weeks, he's solidified his place in this team, on this organization for at least 2017 years to come. I know there's always conversations about, is Ryan going to be here long term? The financial aspect of it, his salary obviously goes up in years to come. He's answered those questions to me, and I'm sure to the people that it matter upstairs here in Davie. And so, yes, you're right. Is he going to be Tom Brady? No, but Tom Brady is a Hall of Famer. Can he be a very good quarterback who, with surrounded by a good offensive line, a running game, and a defense, can win a Super Bowl? I think yes. Yes, he could. One
of the games we always forget the Seattle game where in the fourth quarter he actually drove them down the field, gave his team the lead, and defensively they couldn't stop him. So
and almost brought him the whole way back in New England.
Another game where he put him in a position, to win the game at the end in the fourth quarter. So, I think he's. We've done the show. I think he's checked off a lot of those things that the Dolphin fans are saying, can't do this, can't do that, can't do that. Well, he's checked all of those off, or a good amount of those. And if you're not feeling upbeat about the way Ryan Tannehill's playing, I don't know what you're looking for. E. Hidalgo 954. San Francisco stacked the box and dared Tannehill to beat them. He took the challenge and won. Gase is a quarterback whisperer. Well, I tell you what, Adam Gase, the job that he's done is to me is phenomenal. Just the little things he's done, the nuance that he's brought to this football team, the Jay Ajayi not bringing up to Seattle and sending a message there, Billy Turner, Dallas Thomas, letting them go when there's no upside left to them, and bringing some other guys in here that are going to go in there and battle.
How about taking the number 1 pick in the draft and saying you're benched because you're not playing well enough?
Yep, no doubt.
What other coach would do that?
So he's done some good stuff out there, but more so, I think he's gotten a football team to believe that they can be better than most people believe that they are.
Right, and that's it doesn't matter what we think. It matters what the 53 people in that locker room think, and they do believe. And again, talent obviously and scheme are important, but so is an understanding of who you are and how to get where you're going to be. And I think that's something that's kind of been lacking around here until Adam got here. I think he has changed the culture. He has changed. You go into that locker room, you can tell they like each other.
Yeah,
and that wasn't always the case.
And I've said this plenty of times. To me, I really saw it when we were in San Diego for the week. This is a very, very close, very, very tight football team. The guy they're playing with means something to them. The guy that's playing on defense and they're an offensive player means something to them. And that's how you build a football team. That's how you build a football team that can sustain success for a long period of time, and they've got to continue to do that. Big Joe Dolphin 90. What's the difference? What's the difference do you see in this team and the organization from last season to now? Well, I think it kind of follows along with what we were just saying, that I think Adam Gase is really the impetus behind where this football team has gotten to.
This team is essentially, obviously, there's Kiko Alonso, Byron Maxwell are new, but by and large, the talent isn't hugely different than it was last year. But the product
you could argue that it's not as good because you lose Brent Grimes, you lose Olivier Vernon, Koemisi's out for the year. So you could argue, and I was thinking about this today, you could argue that the talent on this team is not what the talent was last year these guys.
They are getting some breaks and they're making some plays at the end. But at the end of the day, Adam Gase, if they get to 10 wins, he's going to get a lot of consideration for Coach of the Year, and it'll be deservedly so. He would have taken an organization that was 6-10, had not had a winning season since 2008, and put them into the playoffs after a 1-4 start. That is the definition of a coach of the year, in my opinion.
The guy asked about the national media. I was watching one of the shows this morning, and the girl's talking about how the Dolphins, and then she got into their record. Oh, look, their record's this and that. Well, first of all, they got a team, and they played in Cleveland that hasn't won a game. You got San Francisco, who's lost 10 games. That does a lot to drag your quality opponents down in the whole thing. But beyond that, when everybody looked at the Dolphins on their schedule, they go, oh, that's a win. That's a win. So the Dolphins were that team that wasn't going to be any good. And so for me to argue that, their schedule is a difference, I mean, that to me is a little far-fetched, a little short-sighted, to be honest with you.
One more point on this topic. To me, the Dolphins of 2016 are a lot like the Seahawks of 2010. First-year head coach, obviously Pete Carroll had a lot more experience than Adam Gase did, but a first-year head coach who went in and changed the culture of that team. They weren't overly talented. They weren't the team that we know now, but they did enough to get into the playoffs, and they set the foundation. They have an identity that they set in 2010 they could build around, and people knew, okay, these are the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to go to there and fit into that system. I don't think we've had that here in a very long time. I think that's, even if they don't make the playoffs, they get the 9 wins, even 8-8, but people will know who the Miami Dolphins are, and now you can kind of pick up talent and actually acquire talent and be a place where people want to go because they can fit. If you're a big road grading offensive lineman, you know you're going to run the football. If you're a big physical corner, you know you're going to jam the line of scrimmage. That's great. I mean, that's how you build sustained success because you can have a one-off, a blip, win 10, 11 games, and next year go back to 6 and 10. It means nothing. What Adam Gase wants to do is he wants to build this franchise for the next 10 years.
Exactly. Well, you know, that's look. In my experiences, you know, when I came to this league, you know, you go to your first playoff game. The next year, you come back with a little playoff swagger. You expect yourself to be at that level each and every year once you get there, and I think that's what this team needs to get to and experience. At Bill Bensinger, hoping Ryan has them eating their words and has the last laugh after the season. Well, I know this. Ryan could end up being a pro. Don't get me wrong here. If Ryan were to end up being a Pro Bowler, he's the last guy that would laugh at, would have the last laugh.
He is far classier than any of us combined.
Yeah, way too beyond that. Richard Cusack 1. As a UK-based Dolphin fan, could we be seeing a relevant team coming to London next year? I don't think there's any question based on the conversation basically that we've been having. If this team can win this week, if this team can go on and, like you said, win 10 games, win 9 games, maybe get into the playoffs, then I think, they are a relevant football team, and they've got to be one of those teams that you look at next year that says, I gauge relevant football teams by how many 4 o'clock games they have.
Right.
If you have 4 o'clock, you look on your schedule and you got nothing but 1 o'clock games, you are an irrelevant football team, and the Dolphins have been there for a decade and a half now. You look at New England. Look at New England, how many 4 o'clock games they've got. They ain't playing at 1 o'clock every now and then, but they're playing at 4 o'clock games because they want the people on the West Coast to see that football
if not 8
team.
O'clock.
It's right, and so that's where you want to be, and hopefully the Dolphins. That's how I'm going to base it when I look at it. When I see the schedule next year, I'll know how relevant this football team based on that simple fact.
Yeah, I think this team is 2 years ahead of where they thought they might be, to be honest. I think that they thought we're going to take some lumps this year. We're going to find out who can play, who's going to buy in. They kind of skipped over the rebuild. And so you got to think the talent infusion they're going to have next year and the year after. They got all kinds of salary cap space in 2017. They're going to have draft picks. And they're going to have guys that Adam Gase knows he wants to go and get, and a staff and Mike Tannenbaum and Chris Greer who will go and get those players for them. This is a franchise, again, on an ascent. Obviously, you don't know things beyond your control. Things happen. But they shouldn't be here right now. They shouldn't be at 7-4, particularly after the start they had. So I'd enjoy this ride, but be even more excited for the next couple of years down the road.
Just as importantly as Adam Gase knowing what kind of players he wants, he knows in that locker room which players he doesn't want.
Right.
He knows which guys aren't giving him exactly what he wants, and he's got that in his book, and he'll clear those guys out. I mean, look, I hate to bring up Billy Turner and Dallas Thomas, but those are 2 guys he evaluated and said, I don't see any upside with those guys here, so no use having them here. Let me get some other guys, and certainly during the offseason, you'll see some of that going on also. You're watching the Audible here. If you're watching on Periscope, you can go ahead and send your questions at via Twitter at the Audible, and I always get screwed up with that, at the Audible, and you can watch us on a rebroadcast on the Miami Dolphins Facebook page as well as MiamiDolphins.com. T. Lubin 6. I'm now convinced that this winning streak started because I started watching the Audible. You're right. You are absolutely right, my friend. Tell your friends about it and get more people on here. At Odyssey Artist, would you say that this is the most complete team Tannehill has played on? I think that's one of the things I asked a lot of guys yesterday after the game is, are you starting to see this football team become a complete team? And I think to the man that I spoke to, I think they all kind of feel that way.
Yeah, he's never had a receiver like Devontae Parker,
Right.
right? He's a special kind of guy. Yeah. And I know, obviously, Jarvis is a bulldog, and Kenny can stretch the field. But Devontae is a different kind of player. There's a reason he went in the first 15 picks of the draft. He hasn't had that before. He hasn't had, and again, I know they're hurt, he hasn't had 4 left tackles on his offensive line like he has now. So yes, at least on the offensive side, I can't speak to defense because I think actually there have been better defenses during Ryan Tannehill's time than they have this year. But on offense, he can't ask for any better set of weapons. And look at Jay Ajayi. I mean, in my opinion, Jay Ajayi is the best running back the Dolphins have had since Ricky Williams. Yeah, I know Lamar went for almost 1,100 yards one year, and that was awesome. But Jay can do things Lamar can. Yeah. And Lamar, Jay, can outrun you like Lamar can, but he'll run you over too. So I think, the combination of all the skill sets they have, this is the best offense Ryan's had in his 5 years.
There's another Twitter question. Bo, do you think we will re-sign Kenny Stills to keep our wide receiver core intact? If you'd asked me this question last year, I would have said I'm a little iffy on Kenny Stills, but I think I buy into Kenny Stills. Now, he's dropped some balls, no question about it, but he's come up with big plays, and I think he's very comfortable in this offense right now. I think Ryan obviously is comfortable throwing him the football. But look, you got Leonte Carew, who you're hoping makes a big leap from his rookie year to next year and becomes a guy that can run his routes a little better. But I personally, I would think Kenny is a guy that stays, and you just try to build depth around those core 3 guys.
Yeah, there's no doubt the Dolphins will want to try to keep him. The question is, can they afford him? Because he is, yes, limited opportunities, obviously, small sample size, but consistently now for several years, he has been one of the best receivers in yards per catch in football. Those guys are coveted. And if you're not willing to pay $6-7 million to a guy like that, I don't know if the Dolphins can. I know they have a lot of different holes they're going to want to fill in the offseason. He might say, you know what, this is my big chance to cash in. This is my one big chance. And you can't begrudge a guy who does that. Certainly
you know what? And look, money drives the show. There's no question about that. I'm not naive enough to believe that's not the case. But I also think this team and where the team is going with Adam Gase and the way he handles these players, you maybe see some guys giving the hometown discount because they see there's opportunity here for growth as a football team, and they got a guy that they're playing with that is a players type coach that players. I think these players truly enjoy playing for Adam Gase.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Getting back to Kenny, what he does that we don't see is he clears out all that underneath stuff for Jarvis. How many bootlegs they run yesterday? I felt like they ran like 10 or 11 bootlegs. Those aren't possible if someone's not clearing out and making that safety run downfield every single time. And that's where Kenny's kind of hidden value is. So, no, you're right. The players love Adam Gase in a way that I haven't seen players love a coach here in a long time. But again, money talks.
Yeah, money talks, no question. Twitter, another question. What's up with the players on the teams getting sick? I don't know.
Something's going around, isn't it?
Something's going around because it was
Brandon Albert lost 15 pounds.
It was Brandon a few weeks ago, and then somebody else last week in the game was sick.
Kenny.
I forget who it was. Yeah, Kenny was sick. Yeah. So anyway. El Chapo Jr., one of our other favorites that comes in. How big was it that the backup line stepped up? Steen, Urbic, and Young. I thought that was huge for this football team. When I saw those 3 guys run out in the field, I thought, man, this is they're gonna put their best they got over in that side of the line of scrimmage and just try to attack them. And look, they did a great job against the run. But when they needed to step up and protect Ryan as a quarterback to throw as a pass thrower. They certainly did the job then, and I like those guys. I think since they lost Dallas Thomas and Billy Turner, the depth on our team has gotten better.
Yeah,
if that makes sense,
right? You kick off 2 of the third round picks in the last 5 years,
and your depth gets better.
Depth gets better. Yeah. Yes, I agree completely. Those guys played well. I think they played to their ability. But they're going to need more to make the playoffs. What you see from the way Mike Pouncey can move and get to the second level, the way Laramie Tunsil, who's might be one of the better left tackles in football 2-3 years from now, can pull and get into space. His athleticism is, God bless him, you don't get that from Craig Urbeck. You don't get it from Anthony Steen. You don't get it from Sam Young. And so for them to start beating the good teams, and they haven't really beaten a really good team in a while now, but for them to start beating a good team, they need those offensive linemen. So, yeah, hats off. You're right. I was kind of like, this could be the week that really catches up to them. And it didn't. The offense wasn't the problem yesterday. The defense had some late breakdowns, but the offense played fine. But we've talked about this at length. They need to run the football to be successful because it takes the pressure off their defense. It takes the pressure off Ryan. It takes the pressure off their tackles. They can't run the football effectively with those 5 linemen they have starting yesterday. They need their guys to get back healthy.
At Tato Loco 17, Bo, should we look into drafting a future center? That's a pretty good question right there. Mike Pouncey's dealing with another hip injury. He's had that for a while. He's had surgery on, I believe, both hips, I think.
He's had
three surgeries on the hips.
2.5, 3 years.
And it continues to be something that rears its ugly head. And I think you've got to look at look hard at what his medical situation is, and then make a determination there if center is a position that you need to look at in the draft this year.
I would agree with you, except for this. Mike Pouncey's a cornerstone player in this franchise.
No, absolutely.
And he is a guy that very many people on this team look up to. He is a leader on this team. And again, I know that 50 cents can buy you a cup of coffee if a guy's hurt. But nonetheless, that's the only reason that I would say, you know what?
No, I'm not talking about drafting a guy in the first round.
Oh, I see.
But somewhere along the way there, get a guy that you maybe in the third round you see a guy that you feel pretty good about that has some upside.
They should take an offensive lineman
and do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm not talking about taking a guy in the first round and sticking him right up there to play. But look, I know how much Mike Pouncey means to this football team. I just look at this injuries with his hip, and when you have one, okay, when you have two, a little bit. Now you're in the third. The third time you're sitting out, then I think it becomes a serious thing that you've got to look at the future and decide what's going to happen.
There are a couple of players on this team that are going to probably give some serious thought to how much longer do they want to play this game. Mike Pouncey's one of them. Does he want to kind of be hobbled when he turns 50, 55 years old because his hips are gone at age 30? Jordan Cameron's had 4 concussions in 4 years. Does he want to keep playing? There are a lot of questions that need to be answered, but Mike Pouncey's not worried about that right now. He's worried about getting back healthy, getting to the playoffs for the first time as a Dolphin.
I'm with you. Okay, does Kaepernick's play expose a weakness to Miami's defense? Well, I expose the fact that with a running quarterback, a guy that can run, and look, that read option, my man, I tell you, that guy pulled. You talk about play fake. You talk about ball skills. I mean, he got some ball skills there when it comes to play fake on that read option, and he did a lot of damage early in the football game on that. And he's got the ability to run. So I don't think it exposed a weakness in the Dolphins, but I think it shows them when they watch the tape how important it is to stay in your lanes when you're rushing the passer. And sometimes you got to slow down. You may not be able to go as fast as you normally do, just so you can keep them in the pocket. I think that's something they see, but I don't think it exposes a weakness in the Dolphins' defense.
I don't think Tom Brady's going to run the read option.
No, I don't think so. Hollywood 80, at Hollywood 80, do you think we miss Rashard Matthews? No, I love Rashard.
He's playing great this year.
I would love to see Rashard stay and continue to play because I think he's one of the great young receivers in the National Football League. But look, I think the last concern we have right now is our receiving core. As a weakness in the football team.
I agree completely. God bless him. He went and got paid.
Yep.
You're good with the unit you have here.
Yeah. Like I said, Rashard's one of my favorite players when he was here, and really one of my favorite guys when he was here. So I'd love to have him back, but no, I'm not fretting over that at all.
I would take that $5 million and get a corner or a guard or somebody like that at a position of need.
You can catch him at Adam H. Beasley on Twitter each and every day. Check out his stuff in the Miami Herald. Adam Beasley of the Miami Herald. Adam, thanks for stopping by.
Happy to do it.
Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's going to do it for the Audible today. We will be back on Wednesday with a little more action. We'll see you then.